What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I wanted to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have big bank earnings, not to mention some very important data from PPI and other metrics coming out. I'm going to break down how all of this could affect the markets and NIO. But let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon, in just about 3 weeks from now. Anyways, for NIO, we had a nice consolidation day. We're just trading sideways today after all the data that came out. Overall, the market as a whole did see a very, very nice looking pump and then dump after that. And this happened because of the fact that we priced in CPI very quickly yesterday. When the CPI data came out, everything was aligned with expectations. If you actually look at the data, we got the first decrease month over month for CPI. And if you look at the data right here, we're continuing to see these decreases. Now, I personally don't fully trust this data. Always want to just kind of clarify that. I don't fully trust the data. I just have to go based off of it because this is what the market uses when it moves. But with the data coming in aligned with expectations, the market ended up kind of like pumping a bit, then dumping right after. It's kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news event, and that's what we ended up seeing. Once again, all the data was aligned with expectations from core to all items CPI. You have the numbers right here. Everything was aligned with expectations, if not below. And now going into tomorrow, I just wanted to mention that we have PPI data coming out an hour before the market opens. This is going to be very important for manufacturing, not to mention wholesale prices. So this is going to give us more insights on how these different sectors are looking. And we're going to be looking for some more data, the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data at 10 a.m. So we'll see how all of this ends up affecting the markets. But overall, it's going to be very important to watch this. PPI is going to be pretty huge, very, very significant. And we'll see what this leads to. Don't forget that it's going to cause some volatility. Considering that CPI was decent and the last PPIs ended up being aligned with expectations, there's a high probability that the data is going to be decent and it might be fine for the markets. But what concerns me a bit more is going to be this. For tomorrow being Friday, we have Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Chase, not to mention Citigroup, all announcing their earnings. And what they announce could be very, very significant. It's going to be very important. So that could cause a very, very big move. So we'll just have to wait and see how things go. But these earnings are going to be huge. So I can't wait to see what they lead to. On top of this, as far as NIO goes, on July 11th, NIO has its basically its new power swap station being announced in different parts of Europe. There's another good piece of news that they're talking about. They just talked about this today. And it's a good piece of news considering the fact that they're showing some nice growth. There's a lot of excitement because of this as well. On top of this, there's also some news right over here about how NIO's Envo L60s, once again, has very, very interesting looking varieties. It also has a 60.6 kilowatt hour battery pack. This is getting a lot of excitement in different parts of like Europe, for example, and it's going to be a lot more competitive for different markets. It has a very, very nice looking range. So I can't wait to see how this ends up doing, especially when, this enters Europe. And it's very, very awesome news in my personal opinion. On top of this, there's been some news right over here about how Bank of America securities give NIO a neutral rating. Citigroup gave them a buy rating. And also the price price ratio is flat right now, not really doing much. In terms of seasonality, we have other things going on. We have a tendency to be in green about 53% of the time on Fridays. And we tend to see more volatility around 1 o'clock p.m. and also during the final hour of the day. July is also historically a strong one for NIO, about 56% of the time it's green. So we'll see if we get a nice improvement. Volume is going up to 56 million, so that's a good sign, especially after CPI came out. So we'll hope for the best. What do I see for the share price? We're going to be looking to see if we get a bounce right here. If we do bounce, I'll be looking for a test of about 4.75. If we lose support at 4.56, we'll be dipping back down towards 4.5. I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. If we end up losing 4.5, I'll be looking for a dip all the way down towards 4.4. So I'll be watching this very, very carefully. But look for it and see if we get a test of 4.75. If we break this resistance, we could turn back to bullish. Now, from a technical standpoint, NIO is trying to uptrend, making higher highs from here. I think it's getting tighter and tighter for a bigger move. And looking at this from a technical basis, it looks like it wants to push higher towards 4.7, but I can't promise this quite yet. We just have to wait and see. But let me just make it very, very clear that, it depends a lot on the data that's coming out, especially the bank earnings. But from a technical standpoint, it does look like it wants to go up to about 4.7. That's looking a lot more favorable. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. For other tickers, we also have SPY. SPY is also in a very critical place. On the 4-hour time frame, we're going to be testing our 555.9 area. It's our 20 EMA. If we get decent bank earnings and PPI is decent, we could be looking for a rebound to about 559 to 560. And if we get a rug pull, if we end up losing 555.9, look for a dip all the way back down towards 552. I'll be watching to see what the move is for now. We are dipping and testing the support, so we'll see if we get a bounce or not. Whether we get the bounce or not depends on the big earnings coming out, so we will see based off these different levels. For Nvda, it's looking a little bit more bearish to me. We actually lost support right here from the 50 EMA. So this is favoring a move back down towards the 124s. If that fails us, we have an imbalance to fill towards 122. And we balance, we're going to be looking for resistance around 129. We're seeing a little bit of a downtrend right here as we're looking a little bit more bearish. So right now, Nvidia is favoring the downside a little bit more. So downside is looking a bit more probable for Nvidia. As of right now, it also depends on the data to some extent, but technicals do favor that move back down. For a few more, we also have Bitcoin. Bitcoin's kind of rejecting, has a double top like structure. If we end up losing 57,000, we're going to be looking for a big dip all the way down towards 56,000. And we have resistance around 58,000. This looks like it has a double top. So it is favoring from a technical standpoint more downside. I have to watch and see if we lose 57,000 at least for confirmation. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For other factors affecting the markets, I just wanted to mention that, excuse me, the QQQ is looking a little bit more bearish on the 4-hour. Make sure you watch 489. I think we could be testing that to be a little bit more. But if we get a bounce, we could be pushing back up to 495. If we lose 489.7, so about it's very close to 490 actually, then we could be tipping lower. But it does look like it's going to dip a little bit more tomorrow during the pre-market. And we'll see if we get a bounce or not, depending on the PPI reports and the very important bank earnings. For Aapl, we're barely holding 227. If we lose this, we're going to be looking for a dip down towards 223. If we bounce off this, look for 230. We're kind of in the middle. It's looking a little bit lackluster, but we're waiting for some big data, so we're barely at support. I'll be waiting to see how things end up progressing from here. Supermicro is trying to rebound. If we do bounce off this, it does favor going back up to 900. For confirmation, we'll see what the data causes, but this does favor trying to bounce. For Coinbase, Coinbase is also trying to rebound a bit. If we do try to break past 218, look for a push for 220. If we reject, you're going to be dipping back down to 212. As of right now, it's looking a little bit more bearish, like it's downtrending. So if we fail to reclaim 218, look for a continuation lower towards 212. That's looking a bit more favorable. So we'll see what ends up happening here. For Amazon, we're trying to rebound, so look for a test of 195.78 tomorrow. If we get a rejection, we're going to be dipping lower towards 192. If we break through this, we're going up to 197. So look for a big test tomorrow. We have to wait and see for confirmation based off the data. Meta is looking a little bit more bearish. It's favoring a move back down to about 508. If that fails, we're going to be dipping all the way down to lower 500s. To be bullish, you want to break past 518. Otherwise, we're still looking more bearish from a technical standpoint. For Microsoft, we're looking a little bit more bearish. Look for a retest of 456. If this rejects, we're dipping down to 450. If we break through this, we could try to bounce. So we'll see what ends up happening, at least from here. For Google, we're going to be looking at 187 as support. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 185. If we hold this, we could try to rebound. As of right now, it's a little bit more bearish. So we'll see how things go from here. GameStop is trying to uptrend right over here, trying to push higher. So look for 26 as resistance. This is a double bottom like structure, so there is potential for upside. For AMC, we're kind of in the middle. We're going to be looking at our supports currently at 5.1 and we have resistance at 5.24. It might just shuffle at least as time goes on, so it's not really doing much. Anyways, that's my quick analysis of the markets. Some stocks look like they're going to dip a little bit lower. Other stocks look like they have big tests coming. NIO looks like it wants to rebound a bit to about 4.7, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. We'll see what happens with our big reaction from the big bank earnings. So I'm not really a fortune teller. I don't know what their earnings are going to look like. We'll see, and then that's going to cause a big move, so we'll see how things go. But get ready for tomorrow. We have big bank earnings, not to mention the PPI reports, and we'll be very, very patient nonetheless. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, and peace out.